here with Pernell from Horton Hauls Junk in Toledo, Ohio. Pernell, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to it.
Yes, I'm very excited to dive into your story. So, can you talk about why you decided to get into the junk removal business?
I have no idea. No. Initially, I had a portable toilet business in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Then I ended up moving to Virginia Beach and was looking for another opportunity because we were just exiting that business at that time. And I was thinking about a job that nobody wants to do where you can make a lot of money. And initially, my first job idea was like duty call, where you would just go and pick up people's poop.
Oh my gosh.
But in researching all this, I ended up coming upon junk removal, and it was at the time pretty good money. So I researched it, and then we just started out with a basic pickup truck, and now we're here today.
Wow. And why do you think getting into the boring businesses was a good idea?
Well, obviously, people don't want to do certain things, and it's a service business, so there's always going to be a need for it.
Yeah.
And as people have gotten more and more used to, having things delivered to them or just things outsourced, it just seemed like there was just a good opportunity to make money, and it really has proven to be the case.
Yeah. And when you were kind of looking at that business model of like poop or junk or things like this, um, what did you kind of look for when it comes to like a business? Like I guess why junk or poop? Like yes, it's boring, but like was there like other things about it like that kind of like attracted you to it?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, and this could be a good or a bad, is a low barrier of entry. You didn't really need a lot to get into it, but the margins were really great.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, and probably paramount was the fact that it was a very cash business. So you're getting cash business, the cash flow is coming in. So even if you had a little bit of a slow time, you don't have to worry about collecting money, a net 30, even though those are some opportunities for that, but you're getting paid right away. So the cash flow made a lot of sense. The margins were great. And then it's something you can actually scale up. So those were the things that we really looked at to see, uh, why we could start this business.
And for those people that are looking to get into junk removal, what are some steps you think they should be taking as a new business owner?
That is a great question, and probably I could answer this 1,000 different ways. But first of all, we're not necessarily a junk company. We're really a marketing company.
Okay.
So marketing is everything. Everything is marketing. So the way you present yourself, your branding, all that stuff has to really be thought out. And then another thing that I think that people should really look at is they should ask themselves why this venture will not work. And just because you can walk back, a lot of times you're so enamored with your idea, everybody thinks that's a great idea. But if you could just step back from it, use a little bit more rationalization, and just say, okay, why won't this work? Especially with your unique circumstances, right?
Yes.
For me, I have my wife, and she partnered with me. But if you're single, that's going to be a challenge, right? Because immediately you're probably going to have to hire somebody. That's going to raise your labor costs. So a lot of times, just thinking out, okay, why won't this work? And then secondly, have a really good foundation. I think there's a study that showed that people who actually write out their plan, even though they never look back at their plan, they tend to be way more successful than people do. It's just part of that process of planning and focusing out your energies before you launch. But just making sure you have your taxes, your bank account, your operating agreements, all those things that are very foundational, but oftentimes people skip over it and they pay big down the road.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I think something important is figuring out why you could fail.
Yeah.
And I think looking past that, and I always say getting past the honeymoon phase, right? Of like you're excited, you want to jump into it, but then you might be 6 months down the line and you wake up one morning and you're like, I don't want to remove people's junk. I don't want to go into their house and get dirty and get, like and get messy. So I think it is important to ask yourself, like, am I gonna want to do this in a year? Like, am I really
Yeah.
gonna want to go get dirty? Am I really want to go at 7 p.m. at night to go pick up someone's TV? Like, is this something I actually want to do? So I do think it's really important to kind of sit down and be like, what am I not going to want to do? Like, why is this going to fail?
Yeah, and this is actually from a book from the Netflix, the first CEO. He actually mentioned this. Is where basically I borrowed it from him. Actually, I stole it. I'm not gonna lie, but he just basically says the same thing. Why won't this work? And he anytime he does like a venture capitalist venture or whatever, he always asks. He always tells the people, "Hey, why won't this idea work?" And it's just proved to be very successful. You can eliminate a lot of time, and then you can really just ask yourself, like you said, do I really want to do this? And then also too, do I really want to scale this? Right?
Yeah.
And if that's your goal, if you just want to be a mom and pop, that's great. But if you want to scale it, there's a lot more layers to it.
And can you kind of dive into that process of it of like what does scaling look like for a junk removal company and like what are the steps that you've either taken or are planning to take to scale your business?
Yeah, so like the biggest one in our space, I'm not going to mention their name. I don't want to give them any free advertising, but they do about $300 million sales in the United States alone, just franchising their model. And so basically, just having a consistent brand, then document your systems, and so that basically it's like a turnkey business, where people can just walk in, everything's documented. And then also too, when you're starting to scale a business, it might just be good just to open up a satellite location in your area, maybe an hour away for us, like Ann Arbor, which is our future. It's a future goal that we want to do, and that way we can just test the model right then before we really start to expand. And just, I think a lot of times entrepreneurs don't really realize the need, really, to take your time. With our digital age, and we see people who become like overnight
Yes.
success. Those are really like the exceptions, but it's more like the Warren Buffetts, people who just gradually grow their business. And I think if you could just take your time, work on those systems, and just to piggyback what you said about failure, like failure doesn't mean that you failed. It just means you tried. And I always like to look at it as two pillars, like you're starting, and then there's the success, and in between is just a whole bunch of failures. And in order for you to get to success, you just have to go through those failures. And so I think if people can just like realize, like, going into this, you can fail and you can actually lose the business, but it's just a learning experience that will help you to go to the next level or to the next venture.
We like to say you either win or you learn.
Yeah,
There's never failure.
yeah,
And I think it's interesting when it comes to the patience. Like you mentioned, I think a lot of people are like they look at these celebrities or these entrepreneurs like, oh, they succeeded so quickly, but like you said, they could have failed 8 businesses. They could have been grinding for 5 years, posting content every day. Then one video pops off. You're like, they made it overnight, but you didn't see all the back end stuff they did.
yeah. And then once they do make it, there's still a whole lot of
Yes.
layers, a lot more work building teams. I mean, it's just never going to be easy. And I think there's this fascination with people thinking that this is going to be easy, but starting a business is work. It's rough, and if you're married, it could be a challenge. If you're bringing people into your and we don't if you're bringing people into your business, we don't hire for culture per se. We hire people to add to our culture, because we always want to be dynamic. And we always say that we're like super fanatical with business, and we present that, super fanatical about junk, super fanatical about making our customers happy, and we're in it for the long haul. We're not looking just basically, um, people look to make profit. We just look to make people happy, and because we do that, we actually make a profit.
And one thing we actually talked about before this is your hiring process and who you decide to hire. And one thing that you do focus on is making sure they have an entrepreneurial mindset. You kind of cultivate this entrepreneurness in them. Why is that important to you guys?
Well, it's important because it allows me to sit here and have a interview with you while my team is out there making money. But first of all, just as our value, we just really care about our internal customers, which is our team members. And when you hire an employee, all they're doing is looking to just get paid. They're the ones that's going to steal from you. They're the ones that they're just not thinking big picture. But if you're hiring entrepreneurs, or if you're instilling those values, obviously you want them to grow. And if we want to scale, we can put them in a position that they can just take over an operations in another city. So it just really just gives us a lot of it's just win-win.
Yeah.
And then also just the product or the service that we provide to the customer, they're just going to get a great service all across the board. And one of the things that we do to kind of instill this, and we'll probably talk a little bit later about our Lift program, but we actually encourage all of our workers to read a book. So
Okay.
entry level, one book at least, 4 books maybe a year. But anybody that's admin or manager, we want them to read a book at least once a month.
What what book do you always recommend for them to read first?
That's a good question, because I've been reading a lot of books. But I forget the name of the author, but it's called The One Thing.
Okay.
And there's actually a podcast, not to compete with your
No,
podcast,
no, no,
but
no, for sure. I love it.
the one thing, and what I love about this book is, oftentimes as business owners, you're putting fires over the place, and the problem is too, we fool ourselves in thinking that we can multitask, but the brain can really only just focus in on one thing. Hopefully, you're focusing on me. Hopefully,
Yes.
I'm focusing on you. But what he says is, basically just focus on one thing, find out what the most important thing is in your business, focus in on that thing, time block it, and don't let anything interrupt. And he said the interesting thing about it is that, when you do this, other aspects of your business are going to be chaotic, because you're just focusing on that one thing that's going to bring the most value, and you have to be okay with that. But what you'll find that over a period of time, as people are able to focus in on their one thing, they become super proficient and they become what they call masters. And it allows you really just to grow your business because you're just focusing on the most important thing of your business. And we found that to be very successful. And when we started off, it was very chaotic, but the but we just got the feedback immediately where guys could just focus in, they can get mastery over it. And one other thing too is that we focus on the strengths of our employees. For instance, if you got an F in math, most people are going to focus on the math, right? Your parents were, Easton, why'd you get an F in math?
Yes.
But we don't do that. We understand that if Easton got an F in math, more than likely he's not going to be an accountant. So why spend all this time for something that he's just really not strong at? We can always find somebody to help him with, or we can get AI to help him with that. But if Easton is strong at being a podcaster or communicating or being a team builder or making partnerships, that's what we want Easton to do. That's his strength. And so we just play to those strengths. And what we found is that that's just been super. It's really accelerated our business.
And when you are hiring these new employees and you are making sure that they have a entrepreneur mindset and you're focusing on their strengths, when they walk in the door, what are some things that you really focus on to make sure that they do have this mindset? They do want to focus on strengths, things of that nature.
So this is a great question. So immediately anybody, we don't do one-on-one interviews. We do group interviews.
Okay,
And
that's interesting.
we basically put them in groups of smaller groups, and then we pit those groups against each other, and it's very competitive from the get-go. And so we can immediately see how people handle pressure because obviously when you're doing a service business, you're going to people's houses. There's a time constraint or there's an issue. We want to see how people handle pressure. So we just run through a series of little obstacles, team building exercises, and then we just weed them out. We don't do it. We used to do it immediately, but now we just wait to the end because we didn't want to. We found that people were embarrassed, and we didn't want to do that. So we would just do a callback later on. But what it allowed was for us to see their salesmanship. We saw how they handled the pressure. We seen how they would be team members, and then as a result of that, we were just able to basically have a better employee come in. And then also too, they understood that our process was very competitive, and it actually they were actually inspired by it. They actually loved it because once they passed that competitive and they realized they were selected, they felt really good about it. And then we could just build onto that, and just not to talk too much about this next thing. And then from there, we just really instilled the what we call our Lift Academy or Lift certification. And this is really a great marketing tool. And I won't get too much into that, but basically our Lift Academy basically is leadership, integrity, fun, and tenacity. And so we basically have a training where we teach our staff or our team members, our future owner operators, just really how to basically lift our customers by following these values that we love so much.
And one thing I'm noticing during this interview is that you have a very innovative mindset.
Oh, really?
And
That's a first.
the just everything you're saying, especially what stuck with me is that hiring and just the different ways you do things and your focus on customer service and the entrepreneur mindset. Where did this innovative mindset come from? Have you always had it? Is it something that you've had to cultivate over the years? Did your parents help you cultivate this? Where did this kind of come from for you?
So this is, I mean, as with any question, there's never really a simplistic answer. And really, what I find is most people who become entrepreneurs usually have been exposed by another entrepreneur. And what I've learned is it's a mindset. And I'm a really big proponent of failure. Like learn from your mistakes. And even when I'll just share in a little short story. One of my workers basically hit a fence. He caused some damage. And I said, okay, no big deal. Then he did it again. He ended up hitting another building, and he didn't tell me, and I was a little disappointed. And then when we ended up finding out, and he asked me, "Well, are you going to fire me?" I said, "No, I've already invested so much money in you. I want to recoup my losses."
Yeah.
But he hasn't had a problem with. We haven't had a problem with him ever since. And what we learned was that we could always have somebody back him up when he backs up the vehicle, right? But we wanted to help him to see that here we're not looking for you to be perfect. We just want you to basically follow these values that we have instilled, and that we actually, if you're not failing, then you're not trying. So what I've learned over through the course of experience through life being in business is just really that failure, learning from those failures, and then also too, it's better to learn from somebody who's already failed. And this is why we're just so big on reading books. because those people have already failed. They've already said, "Hey, we messed up here." So we just avoid that, and then we just take the path that we feel like, oh, these guys were very successful. So let's just bypass those failures because we can learn from this failure, but we can also learn from the successes that we
Yeah.
have. So all that is just an accumulation of all those components.
Yeah. I love it. And what aspect of yourself did you have to improve to become a successful business owner?
Good question. There's like these questions. I mean, they're never going to be simplistic. For me, I like people, and I don't like to hurt people. But I love. I think I read this in a book somewhere. I can't remember. I wish I could quote it. But you have to be kind to the future person. So if Easton was a friend of mine, I really cared about him, and I knew that he was deficient in one area. I have to look out for Easton, and he could probably. And I'm just using you as an
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
Obviously, he could be mad at me initially, but when he gets to that level of success and he looks back, he can say, "Hey, I'm glad Pernell was able to tell me
Yes.
that because he was kind to the future me." And so a lot of times, as a business owner, you have to let people go. You have to have honest conversations. You have to coach them, and for some of these individuals, this is their livelihood. This is how they're providing for their family. And if they're not a good fit for us, we have to let them go. And that weighs on me personally because I wonder, did I coach enough, or did our system for bringing them on, was it more robust? Could we have avoided this altogether? It can be very traumatic. And those are the things that I had to learn was at the end of the day, though, if a person isn't a good fit and they're not working out, we do have to let them know that that's the case, but treat them with the most dignity. And then also look for opportunities to help them in other areas that we think that there might be a fit. So we're just not going to just throw them out the window, but we're going to
Yeah.
do whatever we can just to help them. And that way, there's still going to be good vibes,
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
ways, right?
Yeah. And having that mindset of like, this might hurt now, but it's going to be way better in the future.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to see you grow. It is going to actually improve their life versus you not telling them, and then they're more angry at you in the future because you didn't tell them versus just getting through that very tough maybe 10 seconds of a crucial conversation. And I found that you probably found the same thing, is that when you start those crucial conversations or those hard conversations, the first 5 seconds kind of suck, and that once you get past that, it's a very constructive conversation. You're kind of talking, they're talking, you guys are kind of cultivating together of like, how can we move through this together versus 10 months down the line, they're like, Pernell, why didn't you tell me this? And then now it could be a very not so fun conversation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times our society has made it very difficult because people are afraid of maybe hurting somebody's
Yeah.
feelings, but these conversations are never personal. We're never attacking the individual. We're just attacking a performance, and then we're also attacking potential, maybe their lack of potential that we feel like they can reach those potentials. And sometimes it's just not a good fit. It's nothing bad, but for the most part, we have very low turnover.
Love it.
And this is a very dirty job. It's very physically demanding, but we teach them salesmanship, we teach them entrepreneurship. One thing that's unique about our business, we actually share our P&L with our employees.
Really?
They see
Okay.
all the numbers. And the reason why we do this is because they can see directly if there's a loss or a profit, how their performance affects the bottom line. And then we're very serious. We're really fanatical, really crazy about the mindset of making sure our employees are owner operators. And for them to do that, they really have to understand the inner workings of a business. And I hate to say it, sadly, a lot of business owners don't even understand their P&L sheets. They can't do a percentage comparison over month. And I'll give you an honest. We had a big loss last month, and the reason why because we brought in more staff, so it didn't allow us to basically do our sales, and we had to devote a lot more time to training. But we just basically said, hey, we had a loss here, and then can you explain to us why you think we might have had those losses, and then also too to figure out like what do you think we can do to basically and make sure that this doesn't happen again. So they're committed to it. They see it, but this is really a really great because if you're I don't know if you've ever seen it where the employees thought the company was great, but then they get all laid off and like, what happened?
Yes.
But here you have no surprises. They understand what's going on, and then they also have a role in fixing the problem, and they're right there with your customer anyway, so they can really solve that problem for you, and then you can go on to do bigger things to basically increase the sales for the company.
That's what I'm saying. Innovative. Very innovative. No, not a lot of people are transparent with their employees. A lot of people or a lot of businesses kind of I guess, protect their employees from all the information versus exposing them to it? I have two more questions for you.
Okay, I got one more answer
M- Make it a good one.
though. I'm just kidding. Go
No, you're
ahead.
good. Being a business owner can be or can feel very hopeless sometimes. Like things aren't going to work out, you might fail. How do you work through those feelings?
And once again, these questions, obviously, there's no simple answer, but I do believe that, just speaking Toledo locally, there could be a better coaching culture. I believe having a coach, a mentor, an accountability partner, an advisory board, something that will alleviate the hopelessness, right? Just have somebody there that's actually sat in your seat. We're not talking about people who are going to tell you what to do, but they're going to basically hold you accountable. And when you have that support system and you can just invite people into that space and you can be vulnerable in that space about, hey, I lost this amount of money, or this employee is giving me this, or my work-life balance with my wife is not where I want it to be. But to be able to share that with somebody who has those same, who've been through that, who same situation, that alleviates all the hopelessness, right? Because now you got somebody that understands you, and then they're gonna be able to walk you through and just, hey, you just need to keep pushing forward. And that's what I've seen, and ultimately, that's what we want to be for anybody else. Like we want to be just as encouraging. Any insight that we have, we're an open book. We just want to share it, and we believe that we can always learn something from somebody else, like we're learning from you, EC.
Yes, thank you. Right back at you. One more question for now. If you could have dinner with two people,
Oh my goodness.
one person from the past and one person from the present, who would it be and why?
Oh, that is a tough question. The first one is, obviously, it's going to be a faith question. It would probably be Jesus. And a lot of times people shy away with that with business, but I feel like Jesus was our ultimate servant leader. And you read a lot of books about companies who exercise servant leadership, but just, loving your neighbor, as you would love yourself, right? Or doing unto your neighbor, the golden rule. That would be obviously, and I think that for a lot of people, that would just be an interesting conversation.
Yes.
But presently, now that's a good question. Um, Man, that's a tough one. It would probably have to be somebody that just really went through a lot of adversity, and I think I, I would probably say Simon Sinek. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yes,
Simon
yes,
Sinek.
yes, I am, Barry.
Him or Adam Grant. These are authors that I really admire, and especially with, and I'll say Adam Grant in particular, because he does occupational psychology and why people do certain things, and those things just really interest me. And I just like to know like his methodology for figuring out, how to figure out why what make people tick in work environments. And Simon Sinek, his thoughts on leadership, which basically echoes similar to the thoughts about servant leadership, are really very masterful, very clever, and very simple to understand the concepts. But at the end of the day, it just really comes down to being a good leader. And I think his last book, "Leaders Eat Last," was
Yes.
a really good book that I read, and then Start with Why, obviously. But those are really just anything that can help me to be a better leader, be a better member of the community. Anything that's going to push those ideas and those values forward. Those are the type of people I want to be around.
Beautiful. Those are the questions I have for you.
Ah,
How can people find you, and what is one thing you want to leave people with? And I know you have some gem in there, like you can share with people.
Well, obviously, we try to market our company. Obviously, they can go to hortonhaulsjunk.com. They can call us. Obviously, I don't know if you're going to share our number here, but I'm not going to say it. It seems kind of weird, but they can call us. We're always online somewhere doing some kind of feature. We're doing a lot more community outreach, especially with the senior citizen seniors centers. I always have a hard time saying that. But just as far as and when you're saying like the gym, is this just for like business owners or just in general?
Life, whatever you want to leave people with. It could be personal advice, it could be business advice, it could be just a gem that you have stored away somewhere in there.
Well, and I think a lot of it we just touched on. I'm just going to reinforce the need just to continue to educate the mind. And I think our society has made it very difficult to basically like people who do not agree with you.
Yes.
And I think an integrated person is a person that basically can like somebody that they do not necessarily agree with. And I think that's the mark of an adult. And I think that has helped us. I mean, we service all spectrums, all our customers across the board, socioeconomic, race, It doesn't matter to us because our values dictate that we treat that person with all the love and respect that they. So we don't even, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're going to get that same treatment, and I think that's what we learned. And just one last thing is, I don't know if it's a correlation or a causation, but the more our staff have started to read books, the more our profits have increased.
Wow.
And in correlation with sharing the numbers, educating them about the business. And then it also has allowed me to step away as an owner to basically have the balcony view of the business, and now getting to more of the big picture and how we can scale the business. And finally, to give those workers that we have a piece of equity, whether that's share or stock in a company, or basically to give them another opportunity to have another location in another city.
I love it. Well, Pernell, this is a pleasure. You're very innovative, as I said, and I think you kept proving that point as you talked. It was a pleasure to chat with you, learn more about just the inner workings of not only your business, but the way that you think about it, your kindness that you push, the way that you're fully backed with service and servicing not only your customers but your employees as the same. So I just want to say thank you so much, and
Thank you, Issa. Appreciate
you
it.
know, it was a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me too.